I always said that every Batman needs a Robin, and for a while, Priest was the Batman, but ultimately he graciously gave Jamal that opportunity. But without Priest and his success and his abilities to really, one, help Jamal become a great player, but two, pick up the slack, so to speak, in some areas where Jamal was still not as talented and not as well versed skill wise in pass protections and pass concepts and those kind of things. Priest was a great compliment. I had a backfield that was a dream backfield for me.
That's so cool.
Look
Now,
at that.
Priest, not to tie this back to comic books as I always seem to do, but when you became Robin, Robin eventually becomes Nightwing, which ultimately is what you did when you went to KC and you crushed it over there. But man, high praise. And, we had Rob Robertson on the show not too long ago, Matt Simon, and he kind of gave me some insight into who Priest was behind the scenes because they were roommates together. So I learned a lot about Priest, his mentality, what he was like as a person back then. So paint that picture a little bit more for us. Like, what was your first impression of Priest? Like, what was that first conversation? And what type of player was he on the field if you had to describe him?
Well, he had great football instincts, but he's also very football smart. He was one of the probably knowledge of the game from a perspective of knowing defenses, defensive structures, being able to anticipate what teams were doing. You could communicate with Priest; he would pick things up instantly and actually could take it to the next level. He's one of those people that I've always fondly shared that every good coach learns from his own players. And Priest would be able, we'd watch film together, and he could tell me things that he saw the defense getting ready to do, and we would watch them together, and we'd earmark them, so to speak, and so create timing wise. He knew all our protection concepts. We knew where the weaknesses were. We talk about those things, and then he could correct things on the field like nobody else's business. He made us a great football team.
That's awesome. All
Yeah.
right, Priest, I'll let you in here.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I'll dig for some more dirt in a minute, but what do you when you hear that, coming from a coach and this time has passed and you're on the other side of the coin now, like how you feel, man?
Yeah, I feel really good about it. Most of these things you get a chance to hear, after you're done playing.
Yeah.
While you're in the middle of it, it seems and feels so different, because there's that competitive nature that you're trying to go against other players. There's that sacrifice, that piece that you have to sacrifice as a player as well. But some of the things leading up to Matt Simon becoming a running back coach, there was a number of other individuals that kind of like shaped me as well, and Ernest Biner was one of those individuals as well. With him being 35 years of age when I got into the league, and I always would say this, he'd come out to practice and he'd have to do all the same reps as we would do.
Mhm.
He'd run the conditioning like we would, lift all the weights as well. Um, but Ernest Biner, he was one that also told me about how to like run a running back room in terms of how do you work with your players that are other guys that you have to compete with. And so Ernest would be one of those guys that would tell me, first of all, he would cook a red velvet cake or bake a red velvet cake. You're right.
So random.
He would do that. And so the reason why I say this is because there's all these individuals that kind of like help you, become the player that you are. And then as I get to Matt Simon as a head coach, um, our in terms of like how we were in terms of like as an individual, I'm more reserved.
Mhm.
And Matt Simon, he's definitely one coach that he's gonna be in your face.
Yeah.
He's gonna be talking, and you're gonna hear him like as you can hear like as we're going through this podcast. He's got a number of things, and he's got a lot of history behind him as well. So I think he pulled out those ingredients in me too, in terms of me being more reserved and knowing that, as a player, I always knew that I was a student of the game. I
Mhm.
always knew that I would be prepared. I always knew I would lift the weights and be in shape. I know I wouldn't if it was for me to go out and have fun at night or just reserve my body and be ready for the next day of practice. I was one of those guys that I'd rather make that sacrifice than just have fun, right? And so I know as Matt Simon, had to work with me in the room. I knew it could be kind of challenging as well. So Matt, I have to ask you that as well. With me being as reserved as you probably can have that experience with me. What did you think in terms of like as we worked out and knowing that like this is the one thing I would say before we get to that, Matt, is that when I think of the Baltimore Ravens, I always knew that from a standpoint of having like the ultimate success with the Ravens, I knew it was limited. And the reason why I would say that is because when I was in the backfield and learning all the different running backs that came through Baltimore, I always knew it was more like 3 yards in a cloud of dust. So in terms of me being a runner and wanting to be in space, get on the perimeter, run screens, be put in situations where it's a one-on-one or one-on-two matchup where I could have the advantage to beat a player, to put me in space. I always looked at the Ravens as 3 yards in a cloud of dust. So, as a running back coach, how
Mhm.
did you see our offense? And then when you look at the differences between Eric Rhett, myself, Jamal Lewis, in terms of the guys that you've seen, in that backfield, um, what did you see the difference was in terms of the Baltimore offense and as a running back, how would they have success?
Well, I think you that's a great question. And in answering the question, the one of the things that's always been challenging to me as a coach, and in particular as a running back coach, is there's so many different styles that runners are different, and everybody brings a little bit different talent to the game, so to speak. Nobody fits in a mold, and that's one of the things that's always been key. And so, you know, you get into a position where leadership, and it doesn't matter whether this comes all the way down from the general manager, the owner, or whether it comes all the way through the head football coach, but they all have this collective style. This is what we want to be. This is how we would like to win football games. And I think we're seeing all this transition in the NFL even right now because sometimes at some particular point, people don't see it going the way they want it to. And a lot of it is about building chemistry and creating chemistry. In my experience as a coach, I've had all kinds of varieties of runners. I've had little guys, fast guys, slow guys, big guys, strong guys. The combination's been endless. Some guys are straight line runners. Some guys are, a great agility, make you miss guys. And everybody wants Barry Sanders. Everybody wants Walter Payton, but not all of them are built the same. And there are a lot of great runners that are variations of those combinations of guys, the Emmett Smiths, and we could go on and talk about them all. Priest was really one of the great dynamic guys. And I came into a situation where people have a perception of how they want to win. Football teams are going through it right now. And it starts at ownership and it goes down to the general manager and it goes to the head football coach, and they perceive that this is how we want to win. And they have to mold the chemistry of their football team into something that they perceive is going to be successful. Being a running back coach, you got to fit into this profile, but most importantly, you have to recognize the talent you have in the room. And what I recognize is, as Priest put it very eloquently, and he wasn't this 3 yards in a cloud of dust, pounded, pounded, pounded type guy. And to fit into that kind of a profile and team was never going to be a great fit. It was going to wear on his body and beat him down to a point where exactly wouldn't be available. And as the Baltimore Ravens were growing, we were trying to create those dynamics, and I was trying to work with the room that I had and trying to get the best output out of it. The interesting piece of this thing was that Priest had some dynamics that I thought were extraordinary, and they were very evident to me. And so in communicating with him, it was kind of one of those things where I'm talking to a guy that doesn't say very much, who's really, really quiet, but he's listening. And he doesn't give you a lot big answers. He just gives you real simple answers. And he doesn't pontificate on all this stuff. He just gives you a real short, concise response. Um, Now, I love that about him because he's honest and he's always very, very direct. And of course, I could tell stories of experience of the priest that are some of my favorites because they really speak to his competitive nature, and they also speak to the challenge that how he was trying to maximize his abilities to be the best for us at the Baltimore Ravens. It's part of why my heart was broken when I knew that he was going in free agency. I knew I was going to lose a great talent. And I knew that great talent was getting ready to go somewhere. We just didn't know where. And it took forever, Priest, for Kansas City to get it done, but it happened. And I was happy for him. I really was happy for him because he was going to find a place where he could be the feature, and they were going to build it around his profile and his dynamics. My hats off to Dick Vermeil because they were able to maximize that, and I think that was a beautiful thing. The Ravens, we decided that this profile we were going to be built around more like Jamal Lewis, and that was the profile that we were going to hang our hat on. Where I had great joy was I found, as I said before, a Batman and Robin combination where Priest could be the great complement to Jamal. He could do the things that Jamal couldn't do at that particular time and really do the things that Jamal wasn't able to do. And he also created a dynamic that was a real challenge for defenses. There were times we played Jamal and Priest at the same time, and the defense didn't know what to do. They didn't know whether to play nickel or to play dime. They didn't know whether to add another safety on the field or take a linebacker or add another linebacker. And that dynamic created, conflict on the defense, and we were able to take advantage of it at the Ravens. But Priest's dynamics were really exceptional when you pair them with the other aspects of our team. I really believe that's why we were a Super Bowl contender. We had this incredible defense. We had this dominant defense, but it needed a functioning offense that could complement it, that could produce points when available, would not turn the football over, and not put the defense having to put out fires and risk, and complement with our special teams. And it was our combination. It was the way our football team won, and we did it in high fashion. We got to a point where we understood who we were, and we almost were unbeatable, and literally ran a stretch through the National Football League that was, without question, one of the more dominant performances in NFL history.
Breaking news from Bet365. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Sign up, place a bet for $5 and get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, player props, futures, and so much more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
Hey, do you have a gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. Or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 21 plus only, 18 plus in Kentucky. Please gamble responsibly. Must be present in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, and select parishes in Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. $10 minimum deposit required. Terms and conditions apply. In-app only.
This has been a Playmaker production.